Ahoy, Nakama, and welcome aboard, or walk the plank. We're your co-captains, Adam and Ed, and this is the Void Century Podcast. Your weekly deep dive into One Piece lore, lost treasures, and the wildest fan theories from the Grand Line to the Void Century. From ancient secrets to Yonko chaos and fresh chapter breakdowns, if you're chasing Laugh Tale, you're in the right crew. Yarg! Hit subscribe and let's set sail. Hello, welcome back to the Void Century Podcast, here today to bring you chapter 1167 of One Piece entitled Ida's Sons. So we actually open up to a bunch of pirates telling stories to one Big News Morgans and some other pirates in Impel Down about some spooky weirdness happening in the Florian Triangle. Their ships were destroyed and sunk in seconds. In the Florian Triangle, where we've seen that there's lots of mist and weirdness, kind of paralleling the Bermuda Triangle in our world. We also learned that pirate ships were mostly targeted by this extreme violence. And then we come to find out that this secret monster or creature in the abyss was actually Harald the whole time, following the world government's orders to kind of clean up the Florian Triangle. Ed, do you have any idea of why the Florian Triangle would be so special to the world government?
I just think that it's special just for the fact that it's like foggy, so they can kind of utilize that mist to hide that it's actually an ancient giant, like who's actually kind of like sieging these ships. So I think that that's really what it is. And also just kind of bringing it to like present day One Piece, maybe the world government still has ancient giants that are kind of working for them, and they're still in the Florian Triangle doing, the work of the world government and the Marines.
I think so. Like, later on in the chapter, we learned that the Marines actually recruited about a dozen giants. We've only seen about 2 or 3 of them, so where are the other ones? Harald specifically is large, given that he's an ancient giant. Do you think the Marines recruited ancient giants other than... Oh, I'm sorry. For a second, I thought Little Lors Jr. was in the Marines. I thought he was wearing a Marines outfit for some reason, but no. Do you think that it's possible the world government recruited some kind of ancient giants? Or maybe that's what they really crave, and that's why they're doing all these experiments?
Yeah, I think it's possible that they recruited ancient giants. I do think that since the ancient giants are kind of like a different, like more proud race, like we've seen from like Loki's mother's family, that they kind of have like a superiority complex towards like non-ancient giants. So maybe it took them a little bit more time to join with the world government, but maybe there are some ancient giants who had like a similar vision as King Harald, or were inspired by him later on, and they just kind of ended up working for the world government. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
So in seeing Harald actually destroy these ships for the world government, he actually says, or the narrator actually states, that this is a 1,000-year atonement of the giants. So my question is, are they atoning for 1,000 years of history, or is this atonement going to last 1,000 years after Harald pledges himself to the world government? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I think that maybe Harald believes, it's less time in reality, whereas Imu's like, no, I'm going to like milk this for like literally 1,000 years. So it might just be one of those where it's kind of like, it looks gray and Harald's translating it one way and Imu means a different way.
I think so. I think 100%. This is a chance for Harald to really understand exactly what he's working with the world government. We'll come to see that a little bit later. Moving forward, we actually have a section where the narrator shows us some of the prominent pirates post-God Valley. Say that 10 times fast. And we see the pirates from the Rocks Pirates that would actually grow to form their own pirate crews or become like really meaningful pirates. First, feel free to stop me. First, we see Kaido. As we know, he started the Beast Pirates, took over Wano. He's officially seeking the One Piece, wants to be the king of the pirates. 2, Whitebeard. He started the Whitebeard Pirates. Obviously, he recruited Blackbeard and Ace. He's really trying to build up his family. He doesn't really have any motivations outside of that other than to be a family man. Speaking of family, we got Big Mom. She's really focused on having more children and building up her military that way, and really developing Whole Cake Island as like her home base and her intelligence network, right? We also get Ochoku, Caribou's dad, who becomes the Commodore of Pirate Island Hachinosu, if it was, after he betrayed Rocks and basically stayed on the island and sent Rocks to his death. Also the Mole, who sold out Shakuyaku to the world government, at least in my head canon. And then we have Shiki, who ended up in Impel Down. I don't necessarily remember how. Ed, can you fill us in?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how either, but it does look like Shiki and Ochoku, just the way that like it's phrased in the manga panels. It looks like they were probably fighting against each other over territory, specifically. So maybe Ochoku was the one who sent Shiki to Impel Down, like in their battles.
Well, we know Ochoku ends up getting got by Blackbeard. I think Blackbeard defeated Ochoku for Hachinosu. He also has that huge scar over his face, so he has not had an easy time. And we know Shiki ended up in Impel Down and also had to sacrifice his legs, so I'm sure he didn't have a really good time either.
Yeah, and Ochoku has that scar over the right eye, which is like the opposite eye of, like, you know, all
my
the...
headcanon.
Yeah, your headcanon, like left eye scars.
He's just a bad guy.
Yeah, and then next we see Pirate Captain Goldie Roger, the king of the pirates, and we got like young Shanks, young Buggy, the crew. You know, this is like the Goldie Roger era, and they just talk about how he was the king of the pirates, and then eventually he got executed. However, they thought that his execution would serve as a demonstration of their strength. Instead, it started the Great Pirate Era, so executing Roger kind of backfired, and it made the world a lot more unruly for them. So, I don't know, I'm kind of happy that happened, because, you know, that's part of the whole story, and that's what kind of set off Luffy becoming a pirate as well.
So we also know that the Roger pirates got to Laugh Tale too early, right? That's part of the reason I think they laughed, right? They're like, oh man, you mean we did all this stuff just to get here too early and we can't fulfill the prophecy?
Right.
So... of course, you would want to start the Great Pirate Era to ensure that the prophecy is fulfilled, right? To ensure that Luffy or whomever his successor would be, the man Roger's waiting for, if it were, or is able to reach Laugh Tale to fulfill the prophecy, right? We'll talk about prophecy a little bit later when it comes to Shirahoshi and Loki. But moving on, as we touched on this a little bit earlier, we actually get to see the alliance between Elbaf and the Giants and the world government proper. And like we stated previously, about a dozen Giants were formally inducted into the Marines, and they actually bypass like Mother Caramel and the whole kind of like shady underground network. So these were actually recruited proper, and like I said before, we've only seen about 3 of them. And we also see, like we speculated previously, once we learned Harald was going to get closer to the world government, that the Celestial Dragons are really fawning over themselves to enslave this poor guy.
Yeah.
So Harald just doesn't realize, but he set himself up for failure. He's really in the belly of the beast right now, and he literally sold himself out for his people, and he's sacrificing himself.
Yeah, and also I noticed that none of the giants that they depict at least have horns, so like, and they're all about the same size, so likely they're not ancient giants, they're just normal giants. But yeah, moving forward, one of the Gorosei lets Harald know that they want to promote him. I think it's been about 5 years since God Valley, so they're like, hey, you've been a good, loyal dog for us. We're going to promote you to a devoted blade. And then they kind of go over like the different ranks. So there's devoted blade, where it's like less human, more weapon. And then the rank that they want to give Harald now is called the Shallows Covenant. And there's 3 different covenants. There's the Shallows Covenant, the Depths Covenant, and the Abyssal Covenant. And it seems like there's a lot to like kind of go over here, because it's like, what do these, like, they're basically like contracts, right? So what do these contracts entail? They talk about this being like a pact with the one true God, where Harald's like, what God are we talking about now? Excuse me, there's a true God now. And yeah, what do you think that like these like pacts really entail, both from Imu's side of things as well as from the people receiving it side of things?
So I think let's start at the top, right? With the Abyssal Covenant, I think it's physically giving your soul to Imu, and that's when you receive like the crazy regeneration. Mm-hmm. You could cheat death, and you get like the demon fruit. I think the Shallows Covenant probably enhances your haki in a way. Probably also makes you stronger, but it also allows Imu or the powers that be to track you or to manipulate you in a way. I think the further deeper you go into the abyss, the more you lose yourself and the more you give yourself over to Imu, right? The more you like physically give your soul and control of your body to Imu.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there, yeah. So then that means that the depths would just be somewhere in between, where you do get an even greater power boost, but not like full. You're not giving your full self to Emu.
So I think the depths would allow you to lose yourself and become like more feral and fight on like instinct or like have Emu controlling you or guiding you in a way. I think the Abyssal Covenant physically allows Emu to take over your body, like we've seen with Gunko and Saturn.
I agree.
Like you can manifest Emu like within your own body, which is terrifying.
And the Abyssal Covenant is reserved just for the God's Knights, so only the God's Knights can become the Abyssal Covenant. And I think each of these stages you get like an extra tattoo. So like we saw, Shanks had that like God's Knights tattoo. So I think that means that he got all the way to at least the depths. But yeah, there's only 13 total that Emu can do. So I think that's just kind of like his actual physical limit. So it's like 13 plus the Gorose, so like 18 total. And I think 18 is like, isn't that like related to how many like celestial families there are?
I thought it was 16.
Oh, it might be 16.
Go. I also wanted to note, I did check, and actually, Harald has the same tattoo that Shanks had when we saw him in the tub.
Oh, okay. So this is just Devoted Blade level then.
No. So Devoted Blade is basically, so they said you will be like God's Devoted Blade, right? So it's a title within like the Shallows Covenant.
Gotcha.
So
in this panel, Harald has the tattoo already, and they're telling him that they're going to upgrade him to a Devoted Blade. So the tattoo might actually be prior to that.
No, he's looking down at the tattoo. I imagine they just gave him the brand then and there, and he's like, "Whoa, it's official."
True. Okay, I can see that.
And then they're like, "Congratulations, you're God's Blade now." And he's like, "Oh, right." And I wanted to let you know, the number for the Celestial Dragons is 16. That's the number in the God thread that Doflamingo did.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
So I find it interesting that there's 13 people that could be God's Knights. I wonder if there's like 3 other auxiliaries. Or if there's... I would imagine it would be like 16, right? And it's also 48, I think, is this number of spaces on the Go board, which is also divisible by 16.
Yeah.
If memory serves correct.
But okay, so we have seen like images of like other God's Knights, and their sigils that are like on their armbands do look a little bit different than what Shanks and Harald have. So I still am under the impression that the further down like the covenants you go, the more tattoos you get.
Yeah, 100%. It's like you get the brand, the initial brand that has like the crossbones on it, and then it also like works its way up, right? So you get like the horns or the crown or whatever it is on the end.
Yeah.
And it seems they actually change like the sides too, so it becomes like a little pointier. So yeah, I like to think
almost like a cross instead of like skull and bones.
Yeah, so when you descend, I like the thought that the tattoo is manipulated as well.
The one that's on Shanks and on Harald, it does kind of remind me... Doesn't it remind you of a Jolly Roger a little bit?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, because I have that headcanon theory where, like, X marks the spot, so if you have, like, the crossbones, it's like you're looking for Raftail.
Yeah, so maybe they also are looking for Raftail too, but for, nefarious reasons instead of, for the good of all mankind, is more to stop, people like Joy Boy to achieve their dreams.
Yeah, I think they would be looking for Raftail to destroy it, right?
Exactly.
To deprive the rest of the world from
or
getting
steal it for themselves. Like, whatever is there to steal whatever that treasure is for themselves. Either way, just...
I always thought it was the friends that we made along the way.
Yeah, maybe. Alright, so, yeah, then they announced that if and when Harald becomes a God's Knight, Elbaf will officially be admitted into the world government. So they're still dangling that carrot. I don't believe they would actually admit Harald into the world government and give him the rank of God Knight just because they want to just keep using him as a dog and, keep dangling that carrot on a stick.
They're racist. I mean, to be fair, like, they don't agree with the mixing of the blood in any way. They don't approve of other races in any way, shape, or form, as we can see a little bit later when Shanks has that dialogue with Harald, right? Like, he's kind of harsh, and he's like, "Listen, you dog,
right?
I'm a figureland. Who the hell do you think you are to talk to me in that way?" Like, really the world government are like turbo racist. So I don't think they'll ever accept the giants, just like they will never accept the fishman
Yeah.
as anything but slaves to be lorded over.
And they don't want to, induct a completely different race as a celestial dragon. Because if they're approved, if Harold becomes a god's knight, that means that he's a celestial dragon at that point. And I don't think that they want a giant or an ancient giant to become one.
They won't induct, what's her name? Was it York or whoever the traitor was, the Vegapunk
Oh, yeah,
satellite
true.
that was the traitor?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they'll never induct her either. She was just a tool, but like we've seen, like they did this to Harold. They'll keep doing this until the end of time. They did this probably in the past with the original Davy D. Zebek or Davy D. Jones.
David D. Jones, yeah.
So this is something. This is just something that they've been doing for like thousands of years, and like they don't care. This is just how they operate, right? It's like we'll give you a little bit of power just so you could be under our thumb and do our bidding, and then when suddenly you're not advantageous to us anymore, like you get got. So in doing so and inducting Harold into the God's Knights with the Shallows Covenant, I mean he's like an unofficial, right? He's like a wannabe. He's a hang around. So they gave him like a long distance transponder snail. And they said, hey, do whatever you want, go back to the surface, but you do not discuss what went on here with anybody. Like, you don't talk about Marijois, we don't know each other, you just go back to doing whatever you're doing, and when that snail rings, you pick it up, and you do what you're told.
Yeah.
I think it's very insidious, and also the intelligence network of the world government. More so, we saw the CP0 and we thought they were nuts. Like, the God's Knights are on another level. Like, they could have agents everywhere and we just have no idea.
So moving forward, we go over to the Fishman Kingdom. Now it's 20 years ago. And I don't know if you guys remember, but like earlier on in this flashback, Harold did go to the Fishman Kingdom or Fishman Island, and he talked with like the king at the time, but I think Neptune then was like a small child or an infant. But now Neptune is the king, and it seems like they're like good old friends. And they're just talking about, Harold's got this mischievous, quote unquote, demon child. And Neptune said that it was prophesized that he would have a daughter soon. And like, what if we married our children together? And Harold's just like, how can we like promise like an unborn? Like we don't even know officially you're gonna have a daughter yet. Like how can we trust that prophecy? But like it's a fun thought to have. So like sure. But he talks about how Harold calls her a shaggy daughter, your little brat, like my little brat with your shaggy daughter. And in an unofficial translation, so the Viz translation said shaggy daughter. However, in the unofficial translation, he calls it your Mosa Mosa daughter. So I think that unofficial translation kind of confirmed that the Mosa Mosa Loki's been talking with is most likely going to be Shirahoshi.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of like a twist, right? Because we were led to think, like, based on the Denden Mushi, that Masa was like some big burly giant. I mean, we even discussed it previously, right?
Yeah.
I think it would be very interesting if, like, Loki and Shirahoshi were in, like, a long-distance relationship, kind of like star-crossed lovers. The only thing that I can think that would possibly throw a wrench into the works, and I hate to be that guy, is like, so what's the deal with Lola? Do you think, like, maybe, like, a part of the family that Loki doesn't really talk to tried to sell him off, even though, like, Harald wanted him to be with Shirahoshi? Like, I mean, he's everybody's trying to ship him. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that maybe Loki was interested in Lola himself before, like, Shirahoshi was even born. Because, yeah, like, even currently, Shirahoshi's not born, whereas Loki's been alive for a while, and, like, the Rocks Pirates have gone and went. Like, they're not a thing anymore. So, it's possible that Loki had interest in Lola prior to even this conversation. And then once Shirahoshi was born, like, they kind of formed, like what you said, like a long distance type of relationship. Like when he was talking on that Dendemushi earlier in Elbaf, talking to Mosa for that one last time, it did seem kind of romantic. Like I definitely did get sort of like these people really care for each other type of vibes, which really surprised me because at that point everyone hated Loki. Everyone like he's in the underworld, he's chained up, like everyone in his entire island like is afraid of him. So yeah, I do kind of think that it's likely that, You know, I ship them already. I already shipped them. So, and also they're both like very large beings. So I think that it would, you know, Loki is big enough to, you know, like size wise, they kind of match up to. So, yeah.
But Loki he can't swim, bro. Like, he's got a devil fruit. They're unrequited lovers, man. How can you touch your love if you're just chilling in a bubble, bro?
I mean, like, Luffy's been in Fishman Island and he's got a devil fruit.
That's
like,
true.
They can find a way.
That's true.
You know, when there's a will, there's a way, as they say.
Oh, Fishman can come to the surface, though, but does that mean Shirahoshi's going to get legs?
I mean, I doubt it, honestly. But, like...
Is it going to be like a Little Mermaid situation where true love's real kiss gives her legs?
No.
Or does she have to sell her soul first?
She has to give her voice up to Ursula. Moving forward, we see that, like, the Owl Library on Elbaf, and we see Saul D. Jaguar, or Jaguar D. Saul. So it looks like he recently just left the Marines. He's got that scar, so this is going to be after the O'Hara event. And yeah, Harold's like, hey, you're welcome to stay here as long as you want. Like, why not open a school here? You can kind of be like our teacher. Like, what do you think? And Jaguar's like, that sounds really nice, actually. So that was a pretty cool little aside.
I thought that was a pretty cool exchange, but Harald doesn't realize exactly what kind of fire he's playing with and how Saul is really persona non grata, especially being on O'Hara and saving all the knowledge from O'Hara. At this point, allying himself with Saul, Harald doesn't realize that he's actually making decisions that are going to make it that much harder to achieve his dreams.
That's true, yeah, because, I mean, anybody at the O'Hara event, like, even if you're a Marine, like, if you're aware of what happened, like, your life is in danger. Yeah, so that...
Well, furthermore, like, Saul... Sorry, I'm just saying, furthermore, Saul actually collected all the information and all the burned books from the Tree of Knowledge. Like, Saul really is the whole reason why O'Hara didn't go as planned, and, like, the Forsaken knowledge was actually saved and, like, spread throughout the world again. So, like, Harald really, really shot himself in his giant foot.
His ancient giant foot. But yeah, moving forward to 5 years in the future, so 15 years ago, there was an incident in Marie-Joie where it looks like Fisher Tiger. He was a slave and captured in Marie-Joie, and none other, like a shadowy figure that we come to learn, it's actually Shanks, frees him from his chains, frees him from Marie-Joie. Like, they help, like, Fisher Tiger and, like, all the different freed slaves helped free the Boa sisters, so Boa Hancock and
Marigold and Sandersonia.
Yeah, Marigold and Sandersonia. So, like, all of them got freed along with, like, all the different fishmen and whoever else was at Marie-Joie at the time that they could free.
Koala was there.
Yeah, Koala was there, that's huge too. So, yeah, this was, like, kind of like, Shanks was kind of started the birth of, like, that fisherman pirate, the Sun Pirate group. And yeah, they ransacked Marie-Joie. So, like, by the time they escaped, like, Marie-Joie was on fire, which is honestly really badass. Like, I don't know about you, but I always assumed that had something to do with the revolutionaries, not, like, someone from the inside, you know?
I always thought Fisher Tiger was just the G, and it was like a one-man job. I also think it's of note that the narrator also mentioned that the doors to the armory were left unlocked. So Shanks planned this, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just, he met Fisher Tiger in the middle of the street and decided to free him. It's like, no, hey, buddy, this is a rebellion. This is happening. Do you think Shanks, like, knows Dragon at that point? Do you think they're allied revolutionaries in some form?
I think that at the very least, Shanks would know of Dragon by this point. Like, Dragon, I'm thinking that the Revolutionary Army has either started by now or is about to start. And, like, Dragon's obviously, you know, he's got, like, at least, like, the pre-Revolutionary Army group going. So I would assume that Shanks would be knowledgeable of Dragon at this point, but I don't necessarily know whether or not they have actually formally met. Well, other than, like, when they were babies. Yeah, I don't know if they've actually formally met, if Shanks actually knows that Dragon was the one who basically freed him from being raised by Figureland.
So, we've always assumed that, alright, this is, like, pure speculation and headcanon here, but we've always kind of assumed that Shanks looked to Roger as his father figure, right? And Roger died when Shanks was still, like, really young, right? We come to find out with this God Valley flashback that Dragon actually saved Shanks, and Dragon's actually a little bit older than Shanks as well. Do you think, like, that they ever could have had like a big brother, like a mentor role, like in the time in between like
Roger's passing.
Not Whitebeard. Roger's passing, and then Shanks doing his own thing and joining up with the God's Knights.
I think it's plausible. Yes, we just don't know. But I think it's plausible. I like that idea a lot. It would be really cool for them to have a relationship like that, and Shanks kind of being like an adoptive son of Dragon. So I do like that a lot, and also just the things that Shanks is doing currently in this particular flashback, saving the slaves, and that revolution, starting that whole thing with the Sun Pirates. It would actually align with that theory a lot, but yeah, we just don't have any evidence right now.
So we also see that Shanks himself, we'll just move on to the next section, right? So Shanks, he basically has a conversation with Harald. Harald introduces Shanks as his son Figerland introduces Shanks as his son to Harald. And Harald kind of looks at Shanks like, hey, don't I know you? You look familiar. And Shanks is like, how dare you? You have never met me. So Shanks is like really hamming it up. We assume to know like his true intentions, right?
Yeah.
But
I want to also add on to that Harald says, I thought the same thing with Shamrock at first, but have we met before? So he got this vibe from both Shamrock and Shanks. So I'm not exactly sure why he would get that vibe. Like maybe did Harald meet their mother or something? Like why would he get that vibe from both of them? Like with Shanks, I was thinking like maybe it would have something to do with him having like a similar aura to Goldie Roger because he kind of was raised by Roger. But the fact that he felt that way also about Shamrock kind of puts a wrinkle in that theory. So I'm not exactly sure why he would get that feeling of knowing both of the twins.
Yes, it's very strange because we know Harald wasn't on God Valley, right? We've seen the flashback, we've seen God Valley fall. Harald wasn't there. Harald fought Rox to try to stop him before he made it to God Valley. So before God Valley, or like slightly after, there's really no way Harald could have met up with Shanks and had some kind of relationship or even seen them in passing, right? So the fact that he's like, hey, don't I know you, is very strange. I think it's possible that Harald could know like an ancestor of Shanks, or like somebody who is also part of like his family on his mother's side. I don't think that Harald would have been acquainted with any of the Figerlands before he became a servant of Emu or God, right?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that this kind of like stuck out in his mind. It could be the red hair. We know the red hair is like a really prominent feature about Shanks, so much they like named his pirate crew after his hair.
So Harald has met Shamrock, and Shamrock at this point is already a holy knight, a god's knight. So he's like the same rank as Figerland as well. So I would say that like Garling Figerland, he's the captain, so he's like the highest of the god's knight, but it's not too wild to speculate that he's also met Figerland at this point as well. So maybe it's plausible, I guess, that he's reminded of their father as well. I'm leaning towards it being more on the mother's side than on the father's side, but it is plausible. We can't rule it out.
I think so too. Do you think that leads into the fact that Harald might have visited God Valley? Like, think about it. God Valley was wiped off the map, right? Harald has no idea what actually happened there. If Harald visited them and because they were unaffiliated and tried to like befriend them in some way,
yeah,
or assist them to make like the giants seem better, maybe he like knew their mom.
Yeah, maybe he visited
had, like, a
God Valley
relationship with their mom.
Yeah, before the incident, he might have visited them. Also, I just want to note that Shanks is really good at pretending to be a celestial dragon, or I guess acting as behaving
really
as one.
Good.
Yeah, because he's just a huge prick. Like, he's as good at acting as a prick as like the rest of the celestial dragons. So, good acting on his part.
Yeah, think about how nice he is normally, and then just flip that around, and it's like, oh, how gross.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's like really interesting. He's like being all like racist and like narcissistic, and he's winning major kudos with his family, who are turbo racist themselves. And yeah, he says some interesting things, right? So he's like, oh, let me know everything you know about the insider. I want to be the one who captures him. I want to be the hero of this event that they dubbed the ransacking of the sacred Marijois.
Yeah,
so
it's
he
really
wants
himself.
To be the hero.
It's really himself that was the one who did it too. So it's kind of ironic.
Exactly. Like, we've investigated ourselves and we found that we've done nothing wrong, right?
Right.
So Shanks is approximately 24 here because he also stated that he's been away for 24 years and that he's seen everything that the surface has to offer and he hates it. His dad even said that, oh, here's Shanks. He's gone through like the gauntlet of the surface world, and we see that his eyes all bandaged up because he probably met up with Blackbeard and got his famous scars.
Mm-hmm.
So I think something had to have happened in the Shanks and Blackbeard fight that really made Shanks flip and want to get that insider knowledge on Marijois. Like, what do you think his motivation is to get closer to his family, even if he's going to set Fisher Tiger free or cause all this commotion, besides just, like, general chaos? There has to be, like, some end goal. What's that goal?
Yeah, I think that it's just a goal of revolution in this case. Like, I think that setting Fisher Tiger free proves that he's trying to, you know, create an uprising so that the meek inherits the earth.
Similar to what Sabo just did in Marijois too, with
Similar,
cutting off all their food supplies.
So there's
right?
like a lot of kind of parallels with the Revolutionary Army efforts and what Shanks is currently doing in this flashback. So yeah, I do think that he's trying to create some sort of uprising. It's very much he wants freedom. He's opposing slavery. Yeah, I think that he's just trying to help from within, and it's a very risky thing that he's doing, being at the heart of, you know, all that is corrupt and wrong in the world, but he's brave enough to try.
So let's go a little off script here, right? So I like to imagine that Shanks, he gave up his arm for a reason. It just so happened he gave up that arm that had the brand on it. I think there came a point where, see, it doesn't make sense, right? So Shanks was allied with the world government at some point in time as a God's Knight, right? So he got the brand. I think that adds like a tracking beacon to him, so they kind of like
Maybe
know exactly where he's at all times, and it also allows them to control him in some way, shape, or form. So I think that he got this tattoo. He wanted to lose it. He also wanted to make a bet on Luffy, right? But the real point I'm trying to get at here is, so he purposefully wanted to lose the tattoo. Why, at that point, if you betrayed the world government, why would Emu accept an audience with you? Why would he even allow you to sit there and talk to him and not kill you on sight, right?
At the point of him
unless it
losing
really
his
was
arm?
Shamrock. No. We saw that like either Shanks or Shamrock walked up to the Gorosei and had an audience with the Gorosei.
Oh, during
this
reverie.
most recent reverie.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that it's probably still Shamrock, but it is possible that it's Shanks, and they're like, you know what, like, let's listen to him. He might have something important to say or noteworthy to say, even though he's like a traitor and we don't like him anymore. But yeah, I think that, like to your credit, what you're saying about him, you know, losing the arm intentionally to, you know, potentially get rid of like any type of tracking that the brand might include in that pact, that makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, I'm not completely convinced that the person talking at the reverie was Shanks. I think that it was Shamrock. But yeah, we don't know for sure.
So at that point, if it is Shamrock and he's talking to the Gorosei about a certain pirate, do you think he's telling him about Luffy? Do you think he's telling him like, hey, this guy just awakened the Nika fruit, like stuff's getting real, like we have to mobilize?
Yeah, because that happened shortly after the Wano incidents or the Wano fight with Kaido. So yeah, I think that it's very likely that it had to do with the Nika fruit being awakened for the first time.
Got it. Okay, so things are getting deeper. But yeah, Shanks is just a really good double agent right now. I know we had the joke in the fandom for a long time about the nega Shanks, evil Shanks. And like, it's all come to be true, at least with Shamrock. But at the same time, like, we still don't 100% know what Shanks' motivations are. We did see him free Fisher Tiger, but that could also be like, you know, he's playing like 1,000-dimensional chess, right?
I think Oda's just trying to put in some red herrings to make Shanks look potentially evil, but I mean, there's just so many instances proving that he's a great person, so I'm not buying it. I think that Shanks is great. Let's move forward.
Damn you, Oda.
Yeah, damn you. Let's move forward, though. So we move over to like the fisherman village in Elbaf, and we see that Ida, Hajruden's mother, is sick and she's ill in bed, and they're saying like, hey, let's like contact Harald so that we can get like the best doctors to treat you. And she's like, no, let's not do that. And eventually Loki comes and he notices that Ida's sick, and Hadruden's away with his crew because they're starting the new giant pirates. So all of his giant friends that he grew up with are kind of sailing around the oceans. So Loki comes and he sees that Ida's sick, and he goes to his mother's home village in Elbaf, and it's Queen Estrid, if you don't remember. And we learn that Estrid's family has been poisoning Ida. So that's pretty wild. This Ida is just such a sweet woman. She's the reason why Harald had a change of heart, and they're poisoning her, and they're jealous that Harald is showing her so much affection and love that they can't stand it that they're trying to poison her and kill her. So what do you think about that?
I think it's sick. It's really gross. I feel some kind of way about them doing this, but also Loki getting his revenge on them is kind of pretty graphic.
Yeah.
But I don't blame him. I just feel really bad for Loki, as we can discuss a little bit later. But I mean, Loki's gonna watch his only mother die and then have a feud with his brother, and to know that your mother's family did it because they were jealous, this lady that hated you since the day you were born basically is responsible for killing the one person that loved you since the day you were born. Because even Harald hasn't been firmly convinced that Loki's he's not a dud. Harald is this guy, right? Whatever you want to do, just don't screw up.
Yeah.
And make us look bad. But Ida's hey Loki, live with us. We know that you're going through a lot. Hang out with us. Just spend time with us. We'll treat you right. And it feels really bad, because the way I think it's gonna happen, I think Ida's gonna pass away. Harald is getting summoned right back because Ida's health is really declining really fast. So I think Harald comes back, attends to Ida. Ida passes away. Loki, for whatever reason, comes back. Maybe he was trying to search for a cure, trying to beckon Hadruden back. But he comes back, sees his dad, and he barges in. He has to grieve his mom, and then he comes in and he watches his dad get killed. Right? And then I think he snaps, he loses it, or he gets mind controlled, and I think then they just chain him up and they throw him away. And I think it's really sad. I almost see that happening because Oda has a thing for killing off mothers, and Oda also, he really cranks up the tragedy on characters that we're really supposed to like or identify with, especially new crew members. But who knows? That's just a theory.
Yeah, and honestly, going back to the actual Loki kind of slaying Ida's family, or sorry, not Ida's family, Estrid's family, it reminds me of Star Wars when Anakin goes to the sand people, the Tusken Raider village, and slaying all the people there after his mother died. It really invokes that to me, because it's not just the men, it's the women and the children too.
Oh, everybody, they all deserved it. They're made of poison. I just thought it was interesting that Oda decided to mention ergot as the poison. And just a little fun fact, ergot's actually a fungus that grows on barleys and grain. And they think ergot was actually responsible for the hysteria that led to the Salem witch trials.
Oh.
So it doesn't kill you outright, but it makes you go crazy and lose your mind initially.
Oh, interesting. That's cool to know. I didn't know that.
Yes. I just thought that was super interesting. Astrid is kind of a terrible lady. And again, so this secret cabal of giant overlords said, hey, Harald, Ida's not good enough. You're going to need to get with Astrid. Team Astrid. She'll do you right. And it seems they've done nothing. This relationship with Astrid and Astrid's family, besides boring Loki, has done nothing but bring strife to the land of Elbaf.
Yeah, I agree. So, honestly, I can't even hate Loki for purging that bloodline. Obviously it's wrong or whatever, but I can't fault him for it, and it's just a story. But yeah, also, just the fact that he says that he considers Ida his one and true mother, how she's Loki is just lonely and that's why he behaves the way he does, and she always just showed him love no matter how poorly he treated her back. It's just very emotional scene. Loki calling her his one true mother. So I really like that scene.
Yeah, me too. It really kind of like chokes you up though, because poor guy, like he just wanted to like live. It's like everybody else that had the problem with him, not like him that had the problem with everybody else. You know, he's just trying to live his life, and everybody's just, you know, they're judging him without really getting to know him, man.
So I want to talk about. We're done with the chapter, but I want to talk about a theory that that's been kind of circulating online regarding the devil fruit that the giants and Elbaf were like protecting. So we'll just call that the giant's fruit for now. So there's been a theory saying that that fruit was actually the Nika fruit, and honestly, timeline wise, everything kind of aligns. So it's very plausible that they had the Nika fruit, and then Shanks or maybe like Cyberpole with like Who's Who like was able to grab the fruit, and then later on Shanks intercepted Who's Who, stole the fruit from them, and then eventually like Luffy gets it. So like that's kind of like the theory right now that's kind of been circulating that I've seen. And if that was the case, we do know that Loki did eat a fruit, so either he ate a fruit knowing that it wasn't the fruit that the giants were guarding, or maybe someone just replaced it with a different devil fruit, and Loki just assumed that that was the actual fruit. And it kind of aligns with him calling himself Nika. So I don't know. What do you think about that theory that potentially that fruit that the giants were guarding was actually the Nika?
I think it's possible. We see the original Joy. Well, okay. So in Marijois, there's a giant hat, right? So let's extrapolate this for a bit. It's a giant straw hat. Many speculate that it was owned by the original Joy Boy. And when I say giant, it's literally giant, like it was worn by a giant. Mm-hmm. So lots of people think that Joy Boy potentially was a giant, or could maybe like make himself bigger or smaller, kind of like a reverse Gear 3. And we see once the Nika fruit is awakened, anything is possible. So I think it's possible that they were guarding the Nika fruit, right? Because if Nika was like a prominent giant warrior, he died on Elbaf, and then the fruit got respawned in a fruit on the Atom Tree, right? So they would guard it. I think something happened where there was like some espionage and somebody stole the fruit. Who's Who or Shanks stole the fruit. I think it was replaced or switched with a different fruit because it's always locked up. Nobody really knows what it looks like at this point. They haven't eaten it in like 1,000 years, so I think it just like sat in the box just to be like a treasure, right? To break the glass when you really need it.
Right.
So I think it was switched, and then I think Loki ate it and became like what he thinks Nika is. Because we see like all the giants have like some idea of like what the sun god is. They all have like, oh, this is what my Nika can fly. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, my Nika can breathe underwater. Like they all have some certain idea of like what Nika can do. Without actually understanding that Nika's actually just like a comic. He's a cartoon, right? So I think it's very plausible that somebody switched the fruit in the past, Loki ate it, and he got some kind of power, and he thinks it's the Nika power or some kind of crazy ancient power, but it could just be a dud. Or it could just be separate from the Nika fruit altogether and be some kind of like ancient Zoan. I think it's like a Chronos fruit, or like some kind of like super titan or super giant, because we have also learned that the fruit itself is special because it allows the user to control the giants. And the world government really wants the fruit because they really want to control the giants. So if they don't have the king of the giants, they can have the fruit. And if they don't have the fruit, they can have the king of the giants to get the giants that they need on their side for the final war. Thoughts?
Yeah, that all makes sense. That all adds up. I personally am under the belief that the giants weren't guarding the Nika fruit, and it was just it's a different fruit. That's just what I am currently believing until otherwise proven. And like I still like the idea that it's some sort of, Norse mythological creature like the Jormungandr or the Fenris wolf, that sort of thing that's kind of like associated with Loki and the Norse mythology. So I'm still kind of like on that boat, but I do think it's plausible that it was the Nika fruit, and so I'm not going to necessarily rule that out quite yet. But moving forward with what you were talking about with... Oh, wait, sorry, you can go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say I think it's very interesting that Loki in Norse mythology is like a trickster god, and it would make sense that he would want the Nika fruit, which is like the ultimate like comedic relief fruit, or the ultimate clown fruit in a way. Sorry, but
No, that's okay. And like the thing is though, with Loki being the trickster god, is there's always kind of like that mischievous like there's almost like a selfishness with Loki as like in Norse mythology, as well as just kind of like I don't know, chaotic. So he's not really like good-willed, good-natured like what I envision Joy Boy or the original Nika or the original Nika to be. So I don't associate him necessarily with that personally, just because of that kind of like dark side of Loki, even in the mythology.
makes sense.
But yeah, I wanted to move forward with what you're talking about with Harald. So my thought is, like you were saying, if Emu controlled like the ancient giants or the giants, like the king of the giants, then like he could help, rule the world and, have more power. So I was just thinking about like why would Harald's guards be the one to slay him? So we saw at the very beginning of this flashback, Loki witnessing his father's murder or assassination by like his different guards. So why would they turn around on him? My thought is maybe he needed to do something that his guards were just like, no, we can't do this. Like, this is just not something that we're going to accept. Like, we understand that you have become the world government's lackey and slave, but we need to do what's best for our country and our people. So maybe it was something along the lines of giving that ancient giant devil fruit to someone in the world government, possibly, or for Harald to eat it himself and help aid the world government. So I'm thinking along those lines of that might be the reason why they betrayed Harald and assassinated him.
Maybe he willingly handed the fruit over to the cipher pole and who's who.
True. Yeah.
Or I think it's also possible that this cabal of super important giants that forced him to marry Estrid and have a baby with her, that potentially that was a coup. That they're like, oh, Harald, we don't really want to be members of the world government. Look at what it's doing to you. Like, hey, guys, who are you really loyal to? Like the king or like the Senate, right? So we vote that Harald's going to get taken out. So, who pays your bills? You got to do what you're told.
Right. But it's just interesting to think about either way why they assassinated him. Just because he does seem like to be pretty beloved by his people overall. We don't really see any giants, like other than when he's like angry and beating them up. We do, yeah, right. We do see for the most part he's like a very like benevolent ruler, and people do generally appreciate him.
Didn't we see him beat a guy into a pulp like 2 chapters ago?
Yeah,
because rocks died?
It was last chapter, but yeah. That's why I was like, outside of him kind of being enraged and not being able to, hold in his anger, we've really he's been mostly liked by his people.
Yeah, I think Harald is such a good character. I find it to be very tragic that he's willing to do whatever he can to sacrifice himself for his people, and he's never going to fulfill his dreams.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, thanks everybody. This has been chapter 1167 entitled Ida's Children of One Piece. Thanks for sailing with us. That's it for this voyage of the Void Century podcast. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you sail for One Piece content. Catch our bite-sized theories and lore on TikTok and Instagram Reels. Until next time, whether you're seeking the poneglyphs or unraveling the history behind the Will of the D, listen to the voice of all things and we'll see you on our next voyage.